One of America's oldest horse bloodlines nearly disappeared without anyone noticing. Few people realize that the Choctaw once had a line of horses that was small, resilient, and incredibly well adapted. One of the oldest surviving bloodlines, tracing back to the arrival of Spanish horses in the Americas. But unlike Mustangs or Appaloosas, they were never widely recognized, never widely recorded, and they almost disappeared from history entirely. Chapter 1: The Forgotten Horses. Not every important horse lineage in American history became famous. Some were nearly forgotten. The Choctaw horse is one of them. They weren't large, not flashy. They didn't show up in the popular stories of cowboys or war. But if you look closer, you'll find something different. This may be one of the oldest surviving horse lineages in North America, with roots tracing back to the first Spanish horses brought to this continent in the 16th century. The Choctaw didn't raise horses for display. They raised them to use. In the hot, humid, forested terrain of the American Southeast, these horses had to be compact, efficient, and capable of steady movement over long distances. Over generations, they developed into a distinct type, not the fastest, not the strongest, but incredibly resilient and dependable. But there was a problem. They didn't stand out. And in history, what doesn't stand out often isn't protected. As America changed through war, expansion, and the rise of larger, more powerful horse breeds, the role of the Choctaw horse slowly faded. There were no formal records, no large-scale breeding programs, only small, scattered herds existing at the margins of history. And that's when an ancient horse lineage entered its most dangerous phase: being forgotten. Chapter 2: Roots in Spanish Horses. To understand what the Choctaw horse really is, you have to go back much further, long before the United States existed. The 16th century. When Spanish expeditions arrived in the Americas, they didn't just bring weapons or disease. They brought horses. Iberian horses. Compact, agile, and already adapted to the harsh climate of the Spanish peninsula, began appearing on this new continent. Some were lost, some were traded, and some were taken in by native communities. And from that point on, everything began to change. Unlike the vast open plains of the West, the southeastern United States, where the Choctaw lived, was a completely different environment. Dense forests, humidity, soft ground, and long summers. Not every horse could survive there, but the ones that could, stayed. Over time, shaped by harsh conditions and the practical needs of the Choctaw, these horses began to change. They became smaller, more efficient, and highly adapted to difficult terrain. A kind of natural refinement without any formal breeding system. And this is where the debate begins. Are Choctaw horses one of the oldest surviving Spanish-type bloodlines, still retaining original traits? Or are they simply a small branch, changed too much over time? Because unlike the carefully documented breeds of Europe, their history isn't written in records. It exists in their survival. And that's exactly what makes this story so hard to define. Chapter 3: When History Broke Everything. In the early 19th century, everything began to change. Not because the horses became weaker, but because the world around them changed too quickly. As the United States expanded, the Choctaw were forced to leave their homeland in what history now calls the Trail of Tears. This wasn't just a relocation, it was a rupture. During that long and brutal journey, people were struggling to survive, and the horses, once a part of everyday life, were no longer maintained the same way. Many were left behind. Many died along the way. The ones that survived were scattered. And when a herd is separated from the community that shaped it, the bloodline begins to lose control. No more selection, no more direction, no clear purpose, only survival. Later, as the Choctaw resettled in new lands, they had to adapt to a different reality. Larger, stronger horse breeds from Europe and other regions began to appear, better suited for large-scale agriculture and new demands. The Choctaw horse, small and unassuming, gradually lost its role. No one set out to erase them, but no one truly needed them anymore. And that's how an ancient horse lineage doesn't disappear in a single moment. It slowly slips out of history. Chapter 4. When a horse lineage fades away. After the upheavals of the 19th century, the Choctaw horse didn't disappear overnight. It was still there, but in a very different way. No longer central to daily life, no longer selectively bred with intent, no longer maintained as a distinct lineage. They gradually became ordinary horses, blended into larger, stronger, and more favored stock in a rapidly changing America. And this is the key point. A horse lineage is rarely erased in a single moment. It disappears when no one is paying attention anymore. Through the late 19th and early 20th centuries, as breeds like the quarter horse and other farm horses rose in dominance, the Choctaw horse came to be seen as outdated, smaller, less impressive, no longer suited to new demands. They weren't destroyed, they were replaced. The remaining individuals survived in scattered pockets, on small farms, in remote areas, and sometimes only as a trace within the bloodlines of other horses. No records, no registry, no system to protect them. And over time, the line between a Choctaw horse and other types began to blur. At some point, the question was no longer, do they still exist? But rather, are they still recognized for what they once were? Chapter 5. What remains? Today, the Choctaw horse still exists, but not in the way most people would imagine. Not in large herds stretching across open fields, not as a widely recognized or easily identifiable breed. Instead, in small, very small, groups, maintained by a handful of people who understand their true value. For decades, the remaining horses went largely unnoticed. No formal system, no broad recognition, just small, resilient horses, quietly surviving on the margins. Until a few preservationists began to ask questions. Could this be one of the oldest surviving horse lineages, tracing back to early Spanish horses in America? Could those seemingly ordinary traits, smaller size, adaptability, energy efficiency, actually be signs of a much deeper history? Efforts to preserve them began to take shape, but like many horse lines that have been disrupted, the biggest question still remains. Can you truly preserve a lineage once it has been diluted over generations? Today, the Choctaw horse is no longer at the center of history, but it still exists as a small remaining piece of a much larger story. And maybe what matters isn't whether they are exactly the same as they once were. It's this: they are still here, still carrying part of the past. And this time, there are people trying to make sure they're not forgotten again. Thank you for watching. If you notice the small thanks option below, that's just a simple way some viewers choose to support the channel. I've also added a few carefully selected books in the description if you'd like to explore the history a bit deeper.